Holidaymakers faced further chaos yesterday as a fuel issue prevented planes from departing from London Heathrow Airport. It's the latest in a long line of summer problems, delays, cancelled flights, etc. Let's speak to Julia Lo Bue-Said, CEO at Advantage Travel Partnership. Julia, good morning.
Good morning.
Right, bring us up to date then. What chaos have we seen unfold over this weekend? I've seen pictures of hundreds of suitcases stacked up in baggage reclaim halls, for example.
Yeah, good morning. It's been another unfortunate weekend, particularly at Heathrow Airport, where they've suffered a number of issues, from fuel issues, technical issues, as you say, baggage issues. So it's on top of some of the really challenging situations airlines and airports and travellers have found themselves in the lead up to kind of the busy summer period.
Are we getting an idea of how customers, passengers are being treated at this moment? I mean, if we all think about perhaps our own experiences, classic complaints exist around issues of communication, not knowing what's going on, and then difficulties in getting compensation when it's due. Are we getting an insight into how passengers and customers are actually being treated?
I think the first step probably is just to let's bring it into context, because I think there's a kind of real risk here that there's a view that it's like this every airport, every single second of the day. So maybe if we put into context that obviously for a whole industry that was shut down for 2 years, we've restarted very, very quickly in a really busy time. The first busy period was the May half term, and that was not long after government reduced restrictions. So in dealing with that pent-up demand, we've got, in certain situations, bottlenecks appearing. It really is important to remember that the vast majority of flights are departing. I look at what's happening for our membership, and in the vast majority of cases, their consumers are travelling, they're travelling on time, they're travelling without disruptions. Actually, most of the time is spent dealing with customers who are anxious because of the headlines, and it's stopping you from dealing with consumers who need some help. So it's just unfortunately creating a spiral impact. So, but in the vast majority of cases, flights are departing, but we are seeing where things go wrong in the main. It's at the airports when you can't get hold of staff. But if you can imagine, there are lots of people trying to get help and trying to find out what's going on when flights are cancelled, for example. And the lack of communication can be I think, like all of us, if we don't know what's happening, that's where our frustrations are even more exasperated. So communication can be a big issue.
Here's someone texting the programme. They don't leave their name, but they say, I've been waiting over 13 weeks for my passport application. The other 3 members of my family were processed within a month. No news, no issues apparently, and told I need to wait 2 weeks before I travel before it can be expedited. It's a very tight timeline. It's very stressful.
Yeah, it's really difficult. We've had a lot of our members who've had customers who want to book a holiday, then realise because they've not travelled for the last few years and the changing rules of Brexit means your passports aren't actually valid to the end of your expiry date as you thought they were. So these changes they're just one issue on top of another that are really causing quite a lot of frustration. And what we're trying to say, and the message that we're trying to get out, is travel is very complex in terms of options to book and how you book, and the advice you get. And it really is a time where everyone needs to be thinking about, being very clear on what information they need before they make a booking. And once they've got a booking, think about, if something goes wrong, who am I best placed booking that with? And that's not a commercial benefit. That is really about, actually, if I need to get hold of somebody, am I going to be able to do that? So there are a number of factors that need to go into the booking process now, and that needs to be really clear also.
Julia, we understand that this week there will be more cancellations announced to try to reduce last-minute panic and difficulty, actually to give people plenty notice that their flights have been cancelled. What can you tell us about what's expected in the coming days?
Yeah, so what the government have introduced is by this Friday, the airlines need to advise government as to which flights they will be cancelling or taking out of the schedule. And most of those flights, Callum, are where you have multiple flights per destination in a day. So you might have a morning flight or an evening flight. And what we've seen is the airlines consolidate that. Most of that is happening in advance, and actually that's a positive, if I can call it that, because what it really does do is it gives customer security and confidence that the flights will depart, but actually it I may not be going on the day I know, so at the time I was expecting, but I've been told in advance so I can properly prepare and I understand what that is. So it really is about building more confidence, but also resilience in the schedule, so that there is more certainty that flights will be able to depart.
We've been talking about this now for, I would say, a couple of months at least, in terms of the difficulties that airlines are facing. At what point does the problem alleviate? At what point can we say they have now recruited new staff, the staff are now working, and actually these problems will go away?
I think we'll start to pick, airlines and, the industry are recruiting staff, so we're getting people back. It is a slow burn. I mean, there is, we're in a really tight economic employment market right across the sector, economic sectors and other industries as well. So that's really tough. But it's how the industry's put together. There are many different moving parts that make up one element of aviation, for example, and it's trying to get all those things moving at the right time when they have been completely disbanded for a couple of years now. You're trying to literally rebuild a sector. We are going to see things improve. And certainly if I think back to the May half term and what my members were having to deal with, it's definitely improved since then. We are going to get into a busy summer period where, like we talked about before, where you have industrial action, where you have fuel issues, tech issues. These are a little bit outside of everyone's control, so they just have a knock-on impact to everything else that's going on. It will improve, it will get better, and again, as I say, worth remembering that the vast majority of flights are departing on the day and on time.
Julia, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us.
Thanks, Callum.
Julia Lo Bue-Said is CEO at Advantage Travel Partnership.